So I found an article in IGN entitled GameStop Plans to Reopen Stores and Cut Executive Salaries. And so it's an article basically talking about what steps GameStop is planning to take to try to react to the coronavirus. And they've done some kind of interesting things. They've decided the CEO took a 50% hit to his base pay. Other executives took a 30% hit. And then originally they were openly defiant of the shutdown and were trying to keep stores open even though they were pretty clearly non-essential. But they've come around on that and had changed so that they had curbside operations added to a bunch of their stores so people could come and like pick up their games. And so the CEO is out saying that because he's made these changes, the stores who have decided to adopt them have been able to retain up to 90% of their original kind of planned sales volumes. And so I guess I wanted to kind of open it up as a discussion to talk about companies that pivot well, companies that get faced with kind of a big problem and are good at adapting and changing gears, and some things companies might consider doing amidst the crisis.
Yeah, I think this story has been on my radar for a while because I have gaming stuff come up all the time on my feeds. And so when the CEO first basically tried to say they were an essential business and keep everybody open and was like requiring employees to come in, we got backlash from it. So I don't necessarily know if GameStop itself is pivoting or they're really quick to pivot. I think they found themselves in a happy accident, like kind of were forced to. But we have seen other companies out there pivoting, like we've talked about before on this podcast, like alcohol distributors moving to making hand sanitizer, other like manufacturing companies like our friends at VapeJet were able to switch over and start making personal protective gear with their 3D printers. So, and actually some face mask companies popped up, fabric companies doing that kind of stuff. So I think it's those that have been able to make that or been forced to make it, like in GameStop's thing. I think the silver lining in the whole story is that you're probably meeting somewhere around 90% of your profit margin there. I mean, GameStop's model is kind of like the old used VHS sales or something like that. They know you can get a new game for $60, so they sell a used game for $50. When they bought it from somebody for $5. So same thing with all their machines and stuff. So I imagine if their profit margins are only taking a 10% hit or something like that from the curbside service, it's probably based elsewhere in their business model other than just focusing on the curbside service.
I mean, it's cool for them and their team that the executives are taking a pay cut to try to keep everything going. I think that might help morale some, I suppose. I wonder, like, not being into this kind of thing and not knowing much about GameStop itself, I wonder how much of the store experience, how much of what they do is the store experience. Like, do people who go to a GameStop store, do they like browsing? Is it all about going in? And is it like, from what you were saying, AJ, it could be like a pawn shop kind of thing?
Yeah, I think there's a pretty good amount of that. Yeah. Because people bring in their old stuff too, so a big part of GameStop is like just bringing in all your old junk and getting like $3 and then feeling like you've done something. And so I don't see how they're going to replicate that as easily. Now I guess they can have people mail them in, but
yeah, it seems like they'd have to maybe replicate the haggling experience online and then just have the transaction happen at curbside, because the curbside pickup sounds fine, but curbside pickup works best when the customer already knows exactly what they're looking for and they're just going to pick it up, right? If there's an experience to being in the store or to the interaction with staff, then the curbside pickup strategy might not hold.
It's one of the things I guess that gamers kind of like rail against GameStop on is their lack of like company culture. The reports are, and like I'm sure if you Google YouTube how awful of a boss GameStop is. And I've never worked there. I don't know what the situation is. And I imagine GameStop's official response would be that they're all individually owned franchises. But I think they are like the mass market throwback to game stores. Like you have your mom and pop game stores, and then there's kind of GameStop. They're like I don't know, if anybody remembers like Radio Shack, they're like the Radio Shack of electronic parts. You can go find them somewhere else, but they're all kind of like, that's the one place. It's a little overpriced, but they have everything, sort of, you know. And they're not. It's not super high quality. It's not the best thing in the world. The experience isn't that great, but it's in every strip mall, you know. And so I think that's kind of what GameStop represents. If we're talking about the company and the culture, or the company in the gaming culture, it's probably like a last ditch effort. I live in Hoboken. I need a game. I'll go to GameStop.
Seems like they would. Seems like they'd already be in competition then with eBay and Amazon and things like that as is, and this might just be the thing with more people just doing that online in terms of finding their stuff.
Yeah, totally. And they're doing other things too. Like, I guess they're trying to also expand internationally to like Europe, to Germany, Italy, Austria, and a couple of other places. So they're attributing the whole thing to multi-channel. That's their big, approach. And so, yeah. Got something else we can discuss, AJ?
Sure. Actually, and to be noted about that, Reggie from Nintendo joined the board of directors on GameStop. I think they'll be an interesting kind of case study going forward, kind of like how Billabong and Quicksilver were in the clothing industry to see like a declining kind of brand. So we'll have to keep an eye on GameStop.